Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on today's channel, and I'm really excited because today I'll be showing you how you can build your very own point and click adventure game using AI, and this will have all of the components that you would need to build a game like Monkey Island or Sam & Max if you're familiar with those games from the 90s. And this includes full dialogue trees. You also have an inventory system where you can make use of items and pick them up and use them against hotspots. You can interact with the world, which are fully animated, and you will also have full voice acting as well.
The knob fits. I tune it in.
And so in today's video, I will walk you through step by step everything that you need to know in order to create a point and click adventure game. And this will include the specific prompts that you want to be using, how to develop a dialogue system that allows you to have puzzles, as well as how you can create your own animations for your characters, your actors, and your props as well. And I had a lot of fun building this game because I grew up with these kind of games when I was younger, and I really wanted to learn and see if AI tools today will allow me to build from start to finish a complete point and click adventure game, and I was able to do so. So if you've ever wanted to build your own point and click adventure game, this video is for you. I want to show you a couple of things that I've built as part of this game here today. This is actually him giving you the quest and telling you exactly what you need to do, all right?
How's this relay supposed to work?
Is that a speaker knob? The receiver's stem has been bare for weeks. Go fit it and let it tune.
All right, so he's kind of giving you a clue that you need to fix this speaker knob over here. So I'm going to go in here, and then you can see right over here, there is a missing speaker knob. So if I look at it,
Surplus radio receiver. The office relay that feeds the van. I can see one knob's missing from its stem.
so in order to not spoil it for you, I'm not going to show you how I managed to get hold of this speaker knob, but it is over here. So as you can see, I have a full inventory system.
A chunky plastic speaker knob.
All right, so I'm going to use this, and I can interact with the environment as well.
The knob fits. I tune it in. The receiver hums and locks onto the van's relay frequency.
And you can see we have like full cutscene transitions.
Hey, the signal's back online. Well done, kid.
I actually found building a point and click adventure game quite an interesting process, because if you've been following any of my previous videos, you know I've been doing things like platformers and beat 'em ups and even a Street Fighter clone. I realized that there's so many things that you need to consider when you're building a game like this that's so different from those other kind of games, right? So for example, now what you need to do is that you really need to think about your environment props, because that's where a lot of the interactions happens, right? It's not just the character and enemies, but you're going to have to deal with interacting with the entire environment. And in addition to that, you have to think about all of the different animations that not only your character has to have, but also the props and the actors that exist within your environment as well. And this will include a full-blown point-and-click adventure editor as well. So you can see I can do things like change the nav mesh. I can adjust all of the different hotspots that might be available within the game. I can place actors at different points in the world so that they interact with you. I'll show you how you can have things like the inventory system that you see over here, as well as how you can manage your dialogue trees. So let's go through step by step. The first thing that I really wanted to do when I was building this point and click adventure game was I wanted to, first of all, land on a theme and a style that I wanted. And so what I usually do, if you've seen all my other videos, is that I always start off with the concept art phase. I actually landed on this concept after several tries. And let me just show you what I ended up with before landing on this one that I really liked over here. Okay, so you can see here, the first round, they ended up with too complex like mockups, and they didn't really serve too well as what you would expect from a point and click adventure game. They're just a little bit too busy. And so I said I like this one the most, but it was still too busy. I told the AI to make it more game-like so that there was more walking space and that there was a clear set of hotspots and items that could be picked up as well. And this is what I like to do. I usually just generate 4 different candidates for each round. And you can see just with that, I ended up with much better looking game concept art. You can see over here, and you can immediately see this is the one that I went ahead with for the final game. And all of these are starting to look a lot better because they focus less on generic game likeness, as you saw over here, but instead it focuses on it being playable. Okay, so out of these 4, I basically then went ahead and said, I like this one. Let's start to narrow down on what a game story will look like. And this is where the power of AI really comes in, because I struggle a lot of creativity. I've got some ideas, but I usually need some help in terms of thinking, hey, what are the different puzzles? What are different stories? And help me to effectively come up with a nice scene. And you can see this is the result of it. I basically fed this in and I said, I really like this setting and theme. Generate me a puzzle and a story that will have multiple scenes that would effectively result in a nice point-and-click adventure game. And you can see here, the AI generated this projection booth, and then it has this popcorn scene. And ultimately, you can start to see that this was the inspiration for the final game that I got in the end. So now that I've gotten hold of the premise, I basically said, come up with an entire puzzle adventure using these scenes. Make sure that there's a consistent set of interactables. And then effectively, I said, I would like you to annotate the different actors within the environment as well. So you can see here, this is the snack office. And then the AI actually went ahead and said, okay, these are all of the different hotspots that you're going to have. Okay, you're going to have an openable drawer, you're going to have the speaker, you're going to have the screwdriver, you're going to have the popcorn machine, the cup, the van, and all of these things. And then it did the same for the outside as well. I asked it to annotate all of the different environments and hotspots so that we would have a cohesive story. So that's basically how I came up with the story. I actually just said, I want you to create a cohesive point-and-click adventure game with puzzles involving inventory, dialogue, and the AI effectively was able to create a concise puzzle design. And let me just show it to you over here. So you can see here, I basically said, okay, given the mockup that I had, I said, okay, this is starting to look right. Let's make it a very simple goal. It actually started out with the goal where we had to basically open this lock canister over here. And I said, okay, now build me the entire story with the puzzles and the design so that it's all cohesive. And you can see right over here, it says the protagonist needs to get hold of the lock film canister and then bring it to the radar van. And this was meant to be a short technical demo that covers all aspects of what you expect from a point-and-click adventure game. Okay? And so you can see here that it created this draft, and then it tells you the exact puzzle flow. You have to talk to the radar van operator, and then inspect it, go into the snack office, pick up the paper cup. And I'm not going to show you the entire solution in case you want to play it for yourself. But effectively, it basically already designed the entire architecture that this game will need to have. It needs to have all of these different flags, and flags are effectively things that are toggle true or false, and that would enable different aspects of the game to proceed. All right, because you've already got your concept art and you've got your puzzle, now it's actually time to convert this into a real game, and this is where the fun starts. The thing about concept art is that it can be very busy. So if you look at this, even though this looks really nice, you will now need to not only annotate the things that you're going to be able to interact with, but you're going to need to extract out. You're going to need a background that doesn't have this main character, right? You're going to have to take this screwdriver that's up here and remove it from the background so that you can actually pick it up. So if you actually take a look at it here, you can see that this board doesn't have the screwdriver that I picked up because it's actually sitting in my inventory. So there's all these things that you need to do now. And this is where AI is extremely powerful as well. So let me just show you what I did. All right, so now that you've got this, you want to start turning your concept art into this clean, empty room over here. So you remove all of the props, all of this unwanted UI, remove the operator guy from his van and all that stuff. Basically, you can pass in that reference image and then tell your AI that you want to remove all of the inventory items. You want to remove the protagonist, you want to remove the characters, and then you want to keep everything else the same. And you can ask your AI to generate this prompt for you just by saying, I want to remove all of the main actors and hotspots. And this is effectively the way that you can get hold of your plain background. This will give you this setting such that you can then start to put your props into the game. All right, but now removing the props from the background is the first part. Now you need to actually get hold of your individual characters and props. So first of all, you want to ask your AI to draw boxes around the key actors and your hotspots within the game. All right, and then the next thing you want to do is that you say you want to have a single sprite sheet or atlas against a chroma background so that you can make it transparent with every prop redrawn in the same style. And you can see here, all I had to do was I just passed in the 2 reference images. You can see that what it does is that it's able to effectively extract out every single one of those things and put them as separate elements onto a chroma background. And then with that, you are going to be able to then ask for it to slice it out and then put it against transparent background so that you now have individual items that you can use within your game. So that when you're within your game, you can do things like pick up this paper cup over here and it gets removed from the environment. All right, so now that you have all of that, you will notice that there are a couple of things that you will need to be able to handle as well. Because all of these props, right? For example, this drawer over here has 2 different states. There's the version where it's closed, and then I'm going to open it over. I'm going to try to open it here.
It's jam tight.
All right. And I need to pry it open. So I'm going to use the screwdriver on it. And you can see that now this drawer is now open. And what this really is, and I'm going to show you how this is done. And if I go into the editor and then go into Snack Office and I show the actors, you can see that this drawer is just superimposed on top of this. All right. And same thing for this popcorn. You can see this popcorn machine is actually an animated popcorn. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how to do full-blown animations as opposed to just having open and closed states. But you can see that this popcorn machine is also superimposed. This paper cup is also superimposed. And this screwdriver here as well. Okay, and so with this level editor, you can position things nicely so that it looks exactly how you want it. So what you want to do is that you want to pass in and tell your AI using this as a reference image to create an equivalent version of this, but with the canister open. Okay, and this is very doable now with any image editing model, whether it's GPT Image 2.0 or Nano Banana 2. But I like to use Image 2.0 because it works very well. So you can see here, this is an example prompt of what you can use. And then this will effectively create different states of the same object. It will actually preserve the image consistency so that it looks the same. And then now you can basically use whichever version of it that you want onto your background. With these individual items, you're now going to be able to superimpose them and then toggle their states differently. Okay, so let me just show this to you over here. All right, so let me just show you the prop editor over here. If I show you here, this is the film canister open. And then this is the film canister closed. All right, so I'm going to show you how this works. So if I go into my inventory and use the canister key and open this.
I turn the key and it gives with a...
So there you have it. You have the change of state. So that's how you can do very simple change of states within your game. And you can get away with it using the image editing models, and they work very well. Now, this works very well for simple state transitions. But what happens when you want to go ahead and do something a little bit more sophisticated? So for example, all of these characters that you see over here, and if I talk to this radio operator,
Hi there.
Sigh. Hi.
all of the animations that you see over here, they were all created using image generation as well. And this doesn't just go for the characters, right? So you can see I have like full character animations for talking, for walking, for idle. But this animation technique also works for things where you want to be able to interact with the world as well. So let me just show this to you. So you can see here, the popcorn machine is also animating, and I actually use the exact same technique that I used for this popcorn machine as well as for my full character animations. And I've actually created a whole set of tutorials on my playlist, which walks you through step by step how you can do so using a mixture of image generation models as well as image to video generation models that will allow you to animate these things into a video, and then you splice the frames up. All right, so let me just walk you through the actual process that you can take if you just want to do this from scratch yourself. Like I said, I did this in one of my previous videos, but I'll just run through it very quickly over here. So the idea here is that you want to start off with any reference image that you might want to have. Generally want to make this as large as possible. So 1024 by 1024. So that you have a lot of space to work with. And then once you've done that, what you want to do is, if you want pixel perfect art, you can use something like Pixel Snapper that will then remove all of the fake pixels that you have. And then you can resize it to 1024 by 1024 again as your reference image. So this will allow you to have real pixels, or you can skip it as well. Especially if you're doing high definition graphics like this, you don't really need to do any pixel snapping. All right. And then once you have that, just pass this into any image generation model, and then generate a canonical facing that you want. So if you're building a platformer, you just want to build the west facing one, okay? And then just make sure that it looks correct. And then from there, you can then go ahead and pass it in along with a canvas, and then you can go and prompt for any animation that you want. So there's this hit animation here. Now the problem if you use image generation for the animations as well is that sometimes you will end up with inconsistent frames. So if you play this entire thing one after another, you will realize that it doesn't really work. And the other thing is that you also have things like bleeding, right? So you have frames that are not equal in size. So the other thing that I encourage people to do if you looked at my other video is once you've reached your west spacing version, rather than you trying to use image generation to create a sprite sheet, use something like Grok Imagine to create a video. And then once you've created a video of it, then you can just splice out the image. This gives you much better results because you won't have to worry about frame bleeding and inconsistent art. It tends to work very well. And try to use 1 second as your duration so that you prevent the video generation model from going crazy. But if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that I've been working on this tool called Spriterrific, and this is intended to just automate the entire flow that you saw earlier, right? So rather than you having to do all these steps manually yourself, creating the anchor and whatever you want, you should be able to just pass in the prompt of the character you want and just say, I want hurt animation, I want this animation, and it will just automatically create the in-game ones for you. And you can see a bunch of different games that I built using this tool. And you can see I built this platformer, I even built a fighting game, and I did a whole video on it as well. And then you can see this is the latest showcase. All of the animations that were built for this point-and-click game were built using Spriterrific. And let me just show you how this works over here, all right? What I did was, if you recall, very early on, we extracted out all of the key characters and actors and props. So I just passed this and this into Spriterrific as my source image. And then with that, it was able to go ahead and create all these animations that you see over here. And I think the best way is to just show it to you in action. And let me just show you all the different prompts. I can say animate this single character. And then after that, all you have to do is say that I want to create an idle, walk, talk, interact, pick up, use, examine, give. And all of these things will automatically be image consistent. And then it will repack and generate all the different sprite sheets for you without you having to do too much. And you can see that this works not just for characters, but it also works for animating the popcorn. So I could actually just pass in and then just give it a prompt. I say that the body shakes, but then all the popcorn kernel starts moving and then you see animating as well. So I'm going to launch the viewer right now. Okay, so this is the Spriterrific viewer. This comes along with Spriterrific. I'm going to open the point and click view, and then you can see all of these are the different runs that we had. All right, so I'm just going to show this to you. So this was the generated kind of anchor based on that original image. If you want to make it more pixelated, I run Pixel Snapper, but I decided not to do it. And then I just ran a few runs. Okay, this was one run that I ran, but you know what? I realized in point-and-click games, they do not face totally to the left, right? They do have a slightly three-quarter view, so that's why I ended up with this three-quarter view, and I just prompted Spriterrific to give me an anchor that was three-quarters. This is now part of Spriterrific, so if you say I'm building a point-and-click adventure game, it will know to create something like this, rather than a fully west-facing one. So once you've done that, you can see here, these are all of the different animations that were generated as part of the run. And let me just show you what is one. All right, so you can actually preview. So you can see this is very recognizable, the idle animation. And then these are the various ones like the interact, picking up something, shrugging, and talking. And so you can see like sometimes because it's using Grok Imagine, you sometimes end up with a talking where he does a lot of extra motion. So you can just go ahead and prompt it and say, let's not have too much movement of the legs, just the hands. So you can actually tweak some of these animations as they come up. All right, so this is the use animation, and then this is the walk. All right, and this is the main thing, right? Because most of the image generation models do not do well with walk cycles, whereas because you are actually using a video, all right, so this is the actual Grok Imagine video, you will end up with very consistent walk cycles with no problems with the hands and legs. And even if you do have some problems, you can just go into this frame picker, okay? And then this will allow you to select which frames you actually want to be part of your animation. So yeah, so that's how it works, right? And let me just show you the operator as well. So the operator was done like this, okay? And then I said, did I do the operator one here? Yeah, I did say, I said seated van operator, I wanted him to be talking, but then I also wanted him to have a happy version when you solve the puzzle. Okay, so you can see here, this is like the default starting pose, but then after he becomes happy. Okay, and then you can just choose whichever frames you want. You can preview the GIF version or GIF version. Okay, and then once you have this, you can just export this out as a sprite sheet and you can use it straight into your game. And final thing to mention here is this is one that I use for the popcorn machine. So you can see this is the video that the popcorn machine used. So I just passed in the initial image and I told Spriterrific to generate the popcorn animation as you saw earlier. And then the same thing again, it just generates the sprite sheet ready version so that you can integrate it into your game. And that's pretty much how I got all of the animations for the character. And the beautiful thing about Spriterrific is initially you only had things like attack, hurt, jump, but now it's fairly versatile thanks to the power of Grok Imagine. So now you can actually do pretty much any animation. If you're interested in getting hold of Spriterrific, so you can sign up and register interest in it, and I'm slowly letting more and more people try it. It's going to be available, first of all, to the GameDev members. And then I'm also letting in people who have been on the mailing list, as well as those who register interest, so that I have enough time to address any bugs that come up and let people play around with it. And so I think the last couple of things that I wanted to talk about is just the level editor. So if you're building a level editor in a game like this, I would say that these are the things that you need to keep in consideration. Okay, you need a nav mesh for sure. And so this allows you to restrict where they can walk within the area. You want to have a hotspot system, all right? And for example, this hotspot over here is actually the hotspot for for the talking to the operator. Okay. And the other thing that you will notice here is that there's this little ghost effect. And with every hotspot, there comes an interaction spot. Now, this is important because without this, the character actually won't walk. So if I say I want to talk to them here, you can see he walks over to the interaction spot. And this is quite important because if you play adventure games, you know that, certain things, you can like look through the window. It doesn't require them to walk to the spot. But if you are trying to interact with something, you want them to walk to where the animation will line up with the hotspot as well. So that's the reason why I have this interaction spot. So this is something that you want to tell your level editor to be able to do. Have an interaction spot. And then there's obviously the different actors that you can place. So you can see this is live edited. So if I move this canister over here and I move this guy over here, obviously it's not going to look correct now. But if I just play it, you can see everything is just placed in these different locations. And you need to update your hotspot locations because the hotspots are no longer coinciding with the actors. So this is what I generally would advise if you're building it. And then you can also have all these debug views. And this is pretty much a fully fledged level editing. And let me just show you the other place here. So if you look at this one, you can see that there's actually the screwdriver over here. So just say I want to move this more closer to the handle, the paper cup, the popcorn machine, the knob that will appear on the floor when you solve the puzzle. And as you can see, the desk drawer that gets superimposed as well. And that's how you have your level editor. That's one of the most important things that you want to have when you are working, right? And the only other thing that you want to have is a character gym. So you can see here, I have this gym where I can preview all of the different animations for my character. So that's the walk, okay, and then talk. And the reason why I have this is so that you have bounds, so you can ensure that the origin point is correct where you are placing the character. So this is slightly different from if you're building a platformer, because platformers, you have to do collisions and attack bounds. But what I realized for adventure games, the most important thing is this origin that you have over here, and everything else will just fit in nicely. So you can see here, this is the operator. And then you can see these were like left over from my 2 other games. This is the same character gym that I had from my previous 2 games. And I just extended it such that it has this origin. So now this works for point-and-click adventure games now. Great. Okay, so with that, I think the last thing I wanted to talk about is designing the puzzles. And I did tell you that the way I did it was I told the AI to go ahead and build the puzzles, drafting it as a markdown file so that I could assess it. But actually, what I did tell it to do, and I'll show you the prompt over here, is that I actually went ahead and said that I want a JSON-driven engine that allows for the full taxonomy of the different things like scenes, nav meshes, hotspots, actors, dialogue trees, and everything. Are you following? If you search for Scum, this is actually the creation utility that they use for Manic Mansion, and then they evolved it over the next few years to build all of the different games. And the idea here is that you want your entire adventure game to not be hard-coded. Instead, you want this to be driven by a script so that you can change lines, you can change puzzle orders, and you can assess whether or not the puzzle makes sense without you having to hard code or change values within the game engine itself. And so I took that, I said I wanted the entire game to be in JSON. So the entire game is actually driven by a single JSON file that will handle all the different puzzle states, the different hotspot states, how your actions impact different things within the world, and then you can reason about this, okay? I won't go into too much detail about this because I didn't derive it myself. I actually left it to Opus and to handle all of this. But we can look at this, right? So you can see this is the door, all right? And there's a label. There's a different shape that it has for it. And then effectively, the interactions that are allowed to have is to look and to do. And then if you're looking at it, it will actually say a certain string. And then if you do something, it will interact, and then the label will be enter, and then it will change the scene. So it's a very simple structure, but it's actually quite robust because, and the whole point why I wanted to build this technical demo was to just have sufficient constructs that will allow you to build any adventure game. And I think it's actually quite robust. So I will try this out by building an entirely new point-and-click adventure game using the exact same engine to see if I missed out anything. But it has everything from conditional so that you can't do certain puzzles until you do something else. It has different effects. But the idea why this is so powerful is that you don't actually need to recompile. You can just change the file, and then you can just leave it to a designer to just write the content. So something like AI will be able to just change that JSON file without having to change the game code. And you can just have as many different variations in one. But the best part about this is that it doubles up as a save file. And yeah, it's true because everything is just saved as a state, right? So just imagine if I walked here and I haven't resetted these guys yet, but just say I picked up this paper cup, okay? And then I go and save my game. All right, so I save it here. So now if I restart the game now, I can just load game and I can just load this save game. And you can see, right, because everything was stored in a JSON file, you can just snapshot and just reload all the different things. So it knows that I've already picked up that paper cup. Same thing if I pick up this screwdriver and then I take the screwdriver and then use it on this drawer. And then now if I just say I save it again, all right, and I restart, all right, and I'm just going to continue, you can see it knows that I have these items. At the same time, it knows that the drawer is open. So that's the reason why having a JSON file for your entire game is actually really useful. And that's the approach that the old LucasArts teams and point-and-click adventure games tend to do. They drive everything through the scripting file, and then all the assets are just linked to it. So this gives you a really nice way to structure your content. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all of it. Just the last few things that I did towards the end was that I did full voice acting, and I just made use of 11 labs to do both the music and the sound and the voice acting as well. It's really easy. Just run this command, npx skills add 11 lab skills, and then within your favorite editor, whether it's Cursor or whatever. So once you have that, you can just basically say, add voice acting to my entire game. And what it'll do is that you read through this exact JSON file, know exactly which lines it has to say, and it'll just automatically run against labs, generate all the lines for you, and then hook it up. And whenever you change the script, we can just run the same skill again. And this is a really quick way for you to have voice acting for the entire game. I think this demonstrates the power of AI for building point-and-click adventure games, because one of the biggest problems with adventure games in the past has always been the content, right? The engine tends to be the same, with the similar kind of interactables, walkable areas, dialogue trees, but it was the content that took a long time to generate. You have to do all the different animation states, you have to do all the different lines and dialogues and backgrounds. But now, thanks to the power of AI, as I showed you, I managed to do most of this pretty much in a day. And then it was all about polish after that. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video and found it informative. Don't forget to give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so that you'll always be the first to know when new content like this drops. And if you haven't seen my previous video where I did a completely different game genre, which was a fighting game, much like Street Fighter, using pretty much the same process, especially around creating sprites, but I had to deal with a lot of little differences, such as hit collisions, and the things that you would need to consider when you're building a fighting game, you'll definitely want to check out this video that you see right over here. All right, so till next time, I'll see ya.